Chapter 666. The whole tribe was busy. Yin didn't have many things. He had a high status, so Hei Lang sent 2 warriors to help him carry them. When he arrived at Tangwa's place, he saw her and Olga chatting happily at the entrance of the cave. Olga is back? Yin heard from Tangwa that Olga had given up on gain and was going to other tribes to find a strong male. Seeing Olga's happy face, she must have found one. They heard some movement in the cave, and then they saw Mika walking out with many things in his arms. When he saw Yin, he was stunned. Olga quickly said, "This is our high priest." "High priest? This is Miku, my spouse." Olga smiled brightly. "I asked Miku to come and help Guagua. She doesn't have a spouse, and she's still so young. She won't be able to carry so many things." "High priest, Mika may not look as strong as other beast men, but he's very strong. He's very powerful," Olga said proudly. Mika also had a silly smile on his face as he placed the things on the wooden board. His Olga was so cute. Yin nodded and walked into the cave to look around for a while. He started to help Tangwa pack her snacks, dried fruits, and the beautiful necklace made of animal bones and the various dresses she made herself. He put all these into a bag sewn with animal skin. Olga, who was originally showing off her husband, looked at the high priest, who had a high status, helping Tangwa move things. Her eyes almost popped out of their sockets. She opened her mouth wide in disbelief. Who in the tribe dared to order the high priest around? Who in the tribe dared to ask the high priest to work? Even the high priest's own belongings had to be moved away by the warrior leader. "So, high priest, what are you doing? Those are Guagua's things. Did you move the wrong things? Guagua, do you want to take all these away?" This sentence was undoubtedly a huge blow to Olga. The high priest knew that these things belonged to Guagua and was here to help Guagua move things. Oh God, she must have seen wrongly. She bit her lip and tugged at Tangwa. She whispered, "Guagua, why did the high priest help you move things?" Tangwa chewed on the dried fruit and said with a smile, "Because I'm underage and weak, the high priest sympathized with me and came to help me move things. I found the cave yesterday. Hasn't the high priest always taken good care of me?" Ali blinked and let go of her hand. "That's right. Guagua lost her parents when she was very young, and the high priest did take special care of her. Every winter, the high priest would give a lot of animal skins to Guagua and give his food to Guagua." Olga breathed a sigh of relief. Yes, Guagua was so thin and small. The high priest just took special care of her. The high priest was the person with the highest status in the orc tribe. He could relieve their pain and illness. Helping Guagua move things was not a big deal. Olga brainwashed herself. She was not surprised to see what Yin did next. Instead, she started to talk with Tangwa about what happened in the other tribes. The pile of dried meat she was holding before was the delicious food she brought back for Tangwa. She planned to give it all to Tangwa, her best friend. Soon, all of Tangwa's belongings were moved to the cave. Because she was the one who found the cave, the tribe members thought that she could choose a place and make a small space for her to live in. Chapter 667. The second choice was naturally Yin. He chose to sit beside Tangwa, and Tangwa was very satisfied. After a few days, most of the tribe members had moved their things over. There were also many small spaces in the cave. They did not plan to live there for the time being, but there were beast men guarding it during the day. At this moment, they finally remembered Gaines. Gaines hasn't appeared for a few days. They were too busy and excited that they had forgotten about Gaines's existence. Now that they remembered, all the tribe members were worried. Did something happen to Gaines? Just as the tribe members were nervous, Ai pointed outside the tribe and shouted, "Isn't that Gaines and Ning Luo?" That's right, Gaines had brought Ning Luo back. Although Vigo treated Ning Luo well and Ning Luo liked Vigo, Gaines had lost a lot of weight because of her disappearance. This made Ning Luo's heart soften. Vigo had always been gentle to Ning Luo, but Ning Luo was only his. Gaines' appearance broke the peace and tore away his gentle facade. He was stronger than Gaines, and when they fought, Gaines was heavily injured. Vigo even wanted to take her away and leave Gaines where he was. He even wanted to kill Gaines. Ning Luo acted as if she did not know Vigo. In the end, she decided to let Gaines take her away secretly. Just like that, they returned to the tribe. Gaines was of course happy. When AIMO saw Ning Luo return, he was also very happy. He quickly told her the good news, but Ning Luo was a little distracted. She was still thinking about how Vigo could be such a person. Vigo had always been gentle to her. Why did he suddenly become so fierce? It was so scary that she did not recognize him. When Gaines heard that the tribe had found a cave to take refuge in, he happily took Ning Luo in to pack up and prepare to move over. The cave inside is already full. You can only stay in the one outside. Gaines replied, "No problem." He did not have any objections. He had already found Ning Luo. He could even let her stay here. Just like that, after a few days, all the tribe members moved to the cave. Under AIMO and Gaines' persuasion, Ning Luo temporarily forgot about Vigo and did not think about those unhappy things. When she heard that there would be a beast horde in a month, and that it might be dangerous to move to this location, Ning Luo forgot about Vigo. She did not want to die. Accompanied by Imo and Gain, she observed the area and asked what they should do if wild beasts rushed in. Should they build some walls around the area and set up some traps? This proposal was approved by all the members of the tribe. Even He Lang looked at Ning Luo in a new light. Agwagwa, don't go out to play these days. He Lang knew that Tangwa especially liked to run outside, so he specially reminded her, after the beast tide, you can go anywhere you want to play. After a pause, he said, you can also come and find me to accompany you. Tangwa nodded. She thought to herself that she should look for Yin Yao. He Lang would soon forget his love for Agwagwa and fall in love with Ning Luo. This female lead's love really caught him off guard. Unlike her, the man she was chasing was a shy guy. He was shy and arrogant, but he was quite cute. As the chief, He Lang was very busy. Although the members of the Lado tribe had a place to take refuge, their tribe still cooperated with other tribes. Chapter 668. When the horde of beasts came, the warriors of the Rado tribe still had to go out and help the other tribes out of trust. He looked around the cave. It seemed that he still had to make some space. There would definitely be injured beastmen, so they couldn't stay outside. They had to stay in a safer place. The members of the tribe got busy again. Ning Luo was also thinking about his own safety, so he came up with one suggestion after another. He even drew some of the weapons in his memory. At this time, there was no metal, so their weapons were made of stone and wood. Ning Luo suggested to make some weapons and traps out of wood. Tangwa sat outside all day, gnawing on dried fruits, chatting and laughing with Olga, secretly plotting in her heart. If she was handed over as Ning Luo by the members of the tribe, she would have to start smelting iron. Iron was too important. Actually, she was very eager to leave this place so that she could show off her skills. The Rado tribe was so backward that there was nothing. She couldn't do anything. Of course, she didn't want to bring any good changes to the Rado tribe. Don't forget that she was a vengeful person. Unless someone suggested to hand her over this time, the Rado tribe would fight He Lang and Gain to stop her from being taken away. She could consider giving them a chance to atone for their sins. But would they? Tangwa smiled as she looked at the busy beast men. They were all smiling honestly and cutely. Dear host, I think that thinking about your cutie is the happiest thing. As its IQ got higher and higher, the system recalled those dark days and felt sour. It was a string of data. It shouldn't have human emotions, but for some reason, it had human emotions. Although the concern and worry was only for its host, it was still human emotions. I'm quite happy, said Tangwa. The system muttered to itself. You are quite happy, but you are happy because you can take revenge on them after mocking their final choice. This kind of happiness made him feel a little sad. It hoped that its host's happiness would always be warm and pure. For example, she was happy because the weather was good today. Inyao confessed to her and made her happy. She was happy because she ate some delicious food. The system felt a little awkward. It wasn't good to level up too quickly. In the past, he wouldn't have thought about this. He remembered that there was a world where the host was pushed into a sea of fire and burned to death. At that time, he didn't feel anything at all. The result of his analysis was that the host had completed this world's mission and they could proceed to the next world's mission. Even if she didn't shout or scream, even if she still had a smile on her face and endured the fire until she was reduced to ashes, he still didn't feel anything was wrong. At that time, he even said coldly, "Host, You can actually pass out. According to his data analysis, once one fainted, they would not feel any pain. It was clearly a kind reminder, but when the voice sounded, it was cold and emotionless. At that time, the host was still smiling, but it could be seen that her body was tense. She was enduring great pain. Her voice trembled as she said, "No, I want to remember. Remember something." At that time, he didn't understand. Chapter 669. Now that she understood and remembered the hatred, she didn't want to lose herself. No matter how dark it was, how painful it was, she had to be clear-headed. Even if she was destined to be a supporting female character, even if she couldn't distinguish the future, she had to remember this hatred in order to continue walking. But she would never be blinded by hatred. In a world full of despair, she would choose to die together with everyone. In a world with a trace of warmth, she wouldn't give up on living, unless she reached the end of her life. If it was a world with warmth from the beginning, she would definitely make this world better. When he thought about it again, he felt especially sad. If he was like a human, with a body and eyes, and could cry, he would probably cry for an entire day when he thought about every dark world. "Host, how did you survive in the past?" He thought in his heart and unknowingly asked. He quickly changed his words. "Let's not talk about this." "Host, I shouldn't have asked." Tangwa laughed. "Tongzi, you're becoming more and more like a human." "Sigh, I can't help it. I leveled up too quickly. I feel like a human too." He was very complicated. Being like a human was good, but not good. Tangwa smiled. "What's the point of thinking so much? I still haven't figured out your origin and factory address. If your program is messed up, I can't fix it." "Host, you're joking. I don't think I'm bad." The system complained crazily. How could it be bad? It couldn't be bad. If it was bad, who could accompany the host forever? Thinking about that kind of scene, it felt very sad and wanted to cry. Sob, it was a system. It didn't even have tears. What was there to cry about?
Agwagwa.
Inyao walked over and sat beside her. "What are you thinking about?" "I'm thinking about when the beast tide will come," Tangwa said. After the beast tide subsided, it would be time for Olga to get into trouble. Then it would be time for her to leave this place. Calculating the time, it was less than half a year. It was actually quite fast. She glanced at Inyao and smiled. "High Priest, what do you want to say?" Inyao didn't avoid this beautiful little face. If it wasn't for the fact that they were surrounded by beast men, he might have wanted to touch it. Tangwa laughed more and more happily. Intuition told Inyao that the following words were not good. "High Priest, I haven't finished answering your question from last time. What do you want?" Before Tangwa could finish her question, Inyao stood up and glanced at the many curious tribesmen around him. His ears turned red. "Agwagwa, hey, High Priestess, are you going to answer me?" Inyao clenched his fist. "No." He bent down and whispered, "Next time. If you want to ask me a question, ask me in private. Don't do it in front of so many members." Tangwa thought that he would refuse. She did not expect him to say that. She was overjoyed. "Okay, I'll ask you alone in the future. I'll go to your place." Yao's heart was tickled. He quickly stood up, turned around and entered the cave. "I still need to study the animal skin I got last time." Actually, he was almost done studying it. He walked in quickly, afraid that the little female would chase after him and ask loudly, "High Priest, who do you want to mate with?" When the time comes, you don't have to guess. They will definitely attract the attention of all the members. The Lado tribe had settled down for the time being. One night, Gain sneakily brought the shining Luo out. The black wolf, who was not asleep, also opened his eyes. Perhaps because he was worried, he quietly followed behind them. Chapter 670. What happened next was something Hei Lang didn't expect. Under the moonlight, Ning Luo's naked body glowed. He shouldn't have been hiding in the dark, but when he saw her shy expression, he couldn't take his eyes off her. Ning Luo's performance these days was really attractive, and he admired her. She was a very weak female, but she was very intelligent. Not only did she teach them how to make useful weapons and traps, she even knew how to treat small injuries. The sharp knife she had brought a lot of convenience to the tribesmen. He had never seen such a knife before. He didn't know what it was made of, but it was really sharp. He even thought that if the knife was bigger, they wouldn't have to be afraid of wild beasts anymore. If a beast man had a knife like this, he would be able to deal with a wild beast easily. With the help of the moonlight, he saw the other side of this female. Her fair and delicate body attracted his attention. She was already very attractive, but now, she attracted him even more. He forgot that he had to wait for another female to grow up. When he saw her being covered by Gain's strong body, he really wanted to be the one covering her and not Gain's. He wanted to rush up and push Gain's away. Hei Lang only came back to his senses when it was over. He hid in the darkness and watched as Ning Luo was carried in by Gain's. He stood in the same spot and enjoyed the cool breeze for a long time, trying to clear his mind. Luo Luo is very beautiful, right? It was Aimo. Hei Lang turned around and frowned. Aimo, why are you here? Chief, why are you here? Aimo smiled. Don't you think Luo Luo isn't pretty? No. Then she's pretty, Aimo said. The first time I saw Luo Luo, I liked her very much. It's a pity that Gain's monopolized her. She's so pretty and smart. She's definitely not Gain's only. Chief, you think the same too, right? Hei Lang's expression darkened. He seemed to be upset because he was exposed. Aimo continued. Luo Luo is so good. It's not strange that Chief likes her. Personally, I hope that Chief can succeed. He couldn't compare to Gain's or Hei Lang. If Hei Lang made the first move, he would be able to take advantage of the situation and have Luo Luo together. This was what his sister, Ai, had told him. He thought about it and felt that it made sense. With Luo Luo's current situation, there must be more than one strong male who liked her. With another male by her side, the remaining males, such as him, would have a chance to gain her affection. If she liked him, he could stay by Luo Luo's side. As long as he could stay by her side, he would do anything. Don't let your imagination run wild, Hei Lang said before turning around and returning to the cave. Despite what he said, his mind kept replaying the beautiful scene he had seen under the moonlight. Even in his dreams at night, he dreamed of Ning Luo. The person who was with her had become him. Clearly, Hei Lang did not rest well that night. When Tangwa saw him early in the morning, his eyes were a little green. She knew what had happened last night. She walked in front of Hei Lang and asked with concern, Chief, did you not sleep well? I'm thinking about the tribe. Hei Lang turned his head away uneasily. He felt complicated. He seemed to want to be with Ning Luo more. Chapter 671. Tangwa pretended not to know and continued, This time, the safety of our tribe members shouldn't be a problem. There are still 2 other tribes that are on good terms with us, Black Wolf said worriedly. We have already agreed to work together to resist this beast horde. Although our Lajuo tribe is no longer afraid of the beast horde, we can't just ignore them. At this moment, Ning Luo came out of his room and happened to hear Black Wolf's words. Chief, you're really loyal. Ning Luo smiled. Since they're all friends, why don't you let them come here too? This way, we can look after each other. We can't live in the cave. Since we still have time, we can carve out some space outside and set up some traps around it. There shouldn't be any problems. Black Wolf nodded. I think so too. They're already on their way here. So you've thought of this too. His cold face unknowingly revealed a smile at Ning Luo. Tangwa lowered her head slightly and smiled without saying anything. Chief, let's go out and see how we can carve out some space for our new members. Ning Luo thought of the cave inside the mountain. I think the space inside the cave is still very big and there aren't many people living there. Why don't we all squeeze together and carve out some more space? Isn't the distance between the rooms a little too far? Black Wolf stood quietly in the same spot and frowned. He seemed to be thinking about whether Ning Luo's suggestion was feasible or not. Previously, he thought that since the Lajuo tribe was the one who discovered the cave, the Lajuo tribe would definitely prioritize the members living in the cave, unless the members of the other 2 tribes were injured in the fight against the beast horde. Only then would they settle in there. However, after hearing Ning Luo's words, he seemed to be convinced. Actually, the cave inside was really big, and the distance between the rooms was quite far. They could definitely carve out more space. It might work. Before Black Wolf could finish his sentence, he was interrupted by Tangwa. Chief, if you're not afraid of the mountain collapsing, you can carve out a few more small spaces. It's best if you hollow out the entire mountain. This way, not to mention 3 tribes, even 30 tribes would be able to live there. The places that could be excavated were all calculated by her and Yin Yao. They were sure that the mountain would not collapse because of the holes they dug. If they dug a few more holes, no one could guarantee that there would be no danger. When the mountain collapsed, it would no longer be a matter of the beast horde. It would be a matter of whether the people of the Lado tribe would be crushed to death by the mountain before the beast horde arrived. Apparently, Ning Luo didn't think of this. He looked a little uneasy and hurriedly apologized to Tanghua, saying, "Agwagwa, I'm sorry. I didn't think so much. If we really cut open too much space, the mountain might really collapse. I'm just worried about those tribesmen who are on good terms with us. If we only let them live outside, will they be in danger?" Ning Luo felt a little regretful. She didn't expect the consequences to be so serious. She didn't want the mountain to collapse. There must be danger, Tanghua thought. However, the Lado tribe did not give up on each other even after they found a refuge. They even worked together to resist the beast horde. This was already extremely benevolent. Where did this Ning Luo come from? He already needed others to protect him, yet he still wanted to save the world. Chapter 672. Actually, even if we can't open up a new space, we can still fit a few more people in a small space. Ning Luo suggested another idea. "Chief, what do you think of this suggestion?" The longest duration of the beast wave is half a month. It's not a big deal for everyone to squeeze in, Ning Luo said generously. Hei Lang looked at the female in front of him, who seemed to be radiating kindness, and the feeling in his heart grew stronger. Ning Luo was Gain's female, and he shouldn't be thinking about this, but Ning Luo was too attractive. "Okay," Hei Lang replied. Tanghua secretly rolled her eyes. Love-struck, did he ever think about whether the members of the Lajuo tribe would be willing? Ning Luo meant that a small space could fit a person, but they had to survive in this small space for half a month. If they squeezed, how many people could fit? Squeezing a little was fine, but she was afraid that it would become natural in the end. She turned around and went back to her place. Her small space wasn't big, and with some items, it couldn't fit in. It was just enough for one person to sleep in, and she didn't have to worry about others squeezing in with her. Yin Yao's identity was special, and no matter how retarded Hei Lang was, he wouldn't let others squeeze in with Yin Yao. As for those females who had several mates, they definitely wouldn't be able to squeeze in. Thinking about it, those who could squeeze in were those who didn't have mates, such as AIE and AIMO. She wanted to see how Hei Lang would deal with the situation when the members of the other 2 tribes squeezed in. She wasn't worried at all, as it had nothing to do with her. She knew that as long as Hei Lang had feelings for Ning Luo, he would reject her no matter what he did. The originally meticulous and considerate Hei Lang didn't seem to exist. It was really strange, great host. Hei Lang seemed to be a smart person. So why did he feel that everything Ning Luo said made sense? It should be the female lead halo. Since great host was here, shouldn't her halo be slowly disappearing? Wasn't it always like this? Tanghua smiled. Maybe it's because I didn't do anything. The system could be like this? Wow, this was an eye-opener. When Hei Lang and Ning Luo were almost done discussing, he turned around and was about to talk to Tanghua, but he realized that Tanghua was already gone. Ning Luo saw Hei Lang's actions and asked, "Is Guagua angry?" "Aguagua's temper is like this." Hei Lang quickly comforted him. "Ning Luo, you don't have to care about her." Ning Luo nodded and asked, "I heard from Gaines that Chief likes it. I also heard from other members of the tribe that Chief wants to wait for Agwagwa to reach adulthood." She was smiling when she asked this question. She was also sizing up Hei Lang. She usually didn't pay much attention to him, but now that she was observing him carefully, she realized that Hei Lang was indeed the #1 warrior in the tribe. Not only was he handsome, but he was also very tall. In short, he was the kind that people couldn't take their eyes off of. Looking at her, her cheeks became a little red, and she quickly looked away. It's really lucky for Agwagwa to be liked by the leader, but her temper is really not good. I wanted to be friends with her before, but she didn't want to. She doesn't like to play with other people. If Ning Luo wants to make friends, you can find other people in the tribe. They are all very friendly. After a pause, Hei Lang added, "Actually, I was just joking about waiting for Guagua to reach adulthood." Ning Luo, You don't have to listen to other people's nonsense. After saying that, he looked at Ning Luo nervously. Chapter 673. Oh, is that so? Ning Luo didn't notice anything unusual. No matter who it is, it must be her luck to be liked by the chief. Hei Lang almost blurted out, if it was you, would you feel lucky too? Luckily, he stopped himself at the last moment. Chief, let's go out and do some work. The beast tide is less than a month away. We should get everything ready as soon as possible. Ning Luo was very nervous when he thought about how scary the beast tide was. Okay. Ning Luo suggested to the chief to let the members of the other two tribes squeeze in the cave with us. Tangwa sat in front of Yin Yao and supported her chin. What does the high priest think? Yin Yao frowned. The cave isn't spacious. The other two tribes have 200 to 300 people in total. It's impossible to squeeze in. Yin Yao expressed his thoughts. Why did the chief agree? Tangwa smiled. Maybe he felt that what Ning Luo said made sense. The two tribes are our friends. Aren't you planning to build some houses outside to accommodate them? Tangwa replied. Ning Luo felt that it would be dangerous to leave his friends outside and felt bad. Yin Yao couldn't help but glance at Tangwa this time. Aguagua isn't satisfied. Who would be satisfied? Tangwa said. High priest, who do you think would be satisfied with this arrangement? I'm not worried. It's not like they can squeeze me in. If there's any conflict and we can't squeeze in, the chief will have to clean up the mess himself. I'm afraid it won't be that easy to avoid the beast tide this time, Yin Yao said. Tangwa nodded. Yeah, if it's just our tribe, it won't be a problem at all. Now that there's such a big commotion, the other tribes will definitely know about it. When the time comes, they won't let this place go. Aguagua. Hey, High Priest, what do you want to say? Yin Yao couldn't help but knock on her head. He said gently, when there are more people, come to my place. Hearing this, Tangwa was very happy. Is this guy worried about my safety? Tangwa was very happy. High Priest, are you worried about me? Yin Yao nodded helplessly. Of course. Don't worry, High Priest. I've already made preparations. Under Yin Yao's puzzled gaze, Tangwa pushed a part of the wall in the corner of Yin Yao's small space with her butt up. She actually pushed a stone away, which made Yin Yao stunned. The system was convinced. High Priest, look, I've opened a small door here. Tangwa clapped her hands and pointed to the hole. If anything happens, I'll push the stone away and come to you. You don't have to worry. Yin Yao's expression was a little complicated. Aguagua, when did you do it? When you're not paying attention. Yin Yao was speechless. High Priestess, don't be angry. I'm sick. In order to make it convenient for me to see you, I made this. This way, I can see you at any time. You can also move the sleeping beast skin to this position. All right, Guagua, you don't have to express your thoughts. Yin Yao didn't say that he wanted to block this place. He went to Tangwa's residence and pushed the stone in. He turned around and went into the residence. He took a piece of beast skin and hung it there, as if he wanted to block it. In the end, he returned to his position with an indifferent face, as if he didn't do anything. High Priest, does this mean you agree? Yin Yao's mouth twitched. What he did wasn't obvious enough. Chapter 674. Ning Luo followed Hei Lang every day, giving ideas to the tribe and setting up various traps. In the beginning, Tangwa would sit at the side and watch them work. After a few days, she didn't notice anything else. Tangwa, who had been watching them, wasn't at the residence and didn't watch them anymore. Only Yin Yao and Ali, who paid the most attention to Tangwa, found out. Yin Yao was the first to find out. Ali came to find Tangwa to ask her how to make the meat soup better. Only then did she find out that Tangwa was missing. When the sun was about to set, Tangwa came back and asked her what she was doing. She said she went out to play. Ali was easy to fool, but Yin Yao wasn't. The next day, when Tangwa went out again, he chose to follow her secretly. Of course, before he could take 2 steps, Tangwa turned around and stared at him. Yin Yao said, I'm afraid you're in danger. Aguagua, what are you going to do? Tangwa walked to Yin Yao's side and grabbed his arm. High Priest wants to know. If you're willing to tell me. Yin Yao said. Tangwa smiled. Look at this, how artistic. If she wanted to tell him, it meant that if she didn't want to, he wouldn't force her. What a cute guy. I'm going to the mountain. Tangwa pointed at the top of the mountain. High Priest, do you want to go with me? Inyao certainly wouldn't refuse. He also wanted to see what she was going to do. He didn't ask why Agwagwa was slowly changing. The changes weren't sudden, but if one observed carefully, they would know that her changes were getting bigger day by day. When they reached the top of the mountain, Inyao saw pieces of rolling stones placed in a pit at the top of the mountain. There were big and small stones. No matter the size, if they rolled down the mountain, no matter if it was a beast or a beast, they could get hurt. These are, it's better to be safe than sorry. High Priest, I'm afraid the cave below can't help us avoid the attack of the beast tide. Inyao looked at the little female in front of him. He really didn't know what to say. No matter how good the trap below was, it couldn't be compared to the rolling stones. If the stones were placed, the beasts would run away crazily. Actually, there's a better way. What is it? Asked Inyao. Tangwa looked at the busy tribesmen at the foot of the mountain. Before the beasts come, dig a trap. Put some sharp wooden arrows in the pit. The pit must be deep, very deep. Make sure the beasts can't jump up. When the beasts rush in, they will fall into the pit. Even if they don't die, they will be disabled. It's not easy to make sharp wooden arrows, and it's useless if they're too thin. The skin of the wild beasts is too thick, so they won't get hurt at all. I told you to dig a deeper hole. As for the sharp wooden arrows, I have a way. Tangwa turned around and dug out a rusty broadsword from the soil. It looked like it had been buried underground for a long time. Just use this. Inyao was a little surprised as he held his broadsword and chopped down at a wooden stick. Even though it was rusty, after being buried for a long time, he could still easily chop the wooden stick into two. Is this enough? Enough. Inyao's face flashed with joy. With this broadsword and Agwagwa's method, it will definitely help us avoid the attack of the beast tide. Now we just need to get people to dig holes around here. If they dug a pit around the mountain and placed a sharpened wooden stick inside, no matter how many wild beasts there were, they would all die. Then what are these stones? In case the beasts rush over, push these stones down and smash them to death. There's no need to hide inside the mountain. The mountain is the safest place. Chapter 675. Agwagwa is very intelligent. Inyao patted Tangwa's head, then his hand moved to her cheek, and he couldn't help but pinch it. Tangwa looked at him with a smile. High Priest, is my face easy to pinch? Inyao was so shocked that he quickly retracted his hand, his expression unnatural. Let's go and tell the chief about this idea, and let the tribesmen prepare. Inyao held the big knife in one hand. Although he didn't know where Agwa found it, he didn't suspect anything. He held Tangwa's hand out of habit, and the two of them went down the mountain. Tangwa looked at the big knife, speechless. The weapons she collected were all very sharp, and they were all made of good materials. Among these treasured knives, it wasn't easy to find one that rusted easily. Host, are you being kind this time? Kind? The tribesmen of the Lajuo tribe can't die at this time. The system shivered. It couldn't afford to offend. It knew that she wasn't being kind, but it was still kind. At least she could save their lives. At this time, if the tribesmen of the Lajuo tribe are in danger, Inyao will definitely help them regardless of his own safety. How can my man risk his life for them? Oh, so this was the reason. Tangwa smiled. I've already saved their lives. I wonder what they will do when the time comes. Will their fates change? I'm looking forward to it. Inyao brought Tangwa and found Hei Lang very quickly and told him about Tangwa's idea. Hei Lang was very surprised, and he led the tribesmen to start digging. They calculated the time. They wouldn't be able to dig all the way around the mountain, but it was still possible to dig the front. But if they did that, there would be danger behind the mountain. There are rolling stones above. If there are beasts behind the mountain, we can use the rolling stones to deal with them, Tangwa said. Hei Lang was relieved, and he organized the tribesmen to get busy. Ning Luo saw that the soles of the tribesmen's feet were often broken because of the work, so he made a pair of very simple shoes for Gaines. It didn't look good, but it could protect the soles of Gaines' feet. In the end, this method was popularized, and all the tribesmen made shoes out of animal skin and wore them. Later, they discovered that the soles of the shoes can be replaced with other things. For example, a wooden plank. The knife Tangwa picked up before can be used to cut the plank into a thin piece and then tie the animal's skin on it with a rope. It's more comfortable to wear. The saw's made of wood didn't wear out and could be replaced. They didn't need to change the animal's skin often, so they were very liked by the beasts. At this time, the tribesmen of the other two tribes arrived. Their eyes, they looked at Luo's eyes, and every time they looked at Luo's eyes, they were filled, S and S, help, SSS, they, S and let's. Teat, T-testi, T-tess, S, teat, est, the hole was dug, the trap was set, and there was even a layer of withered grass on top. From afar, it really didn't look like there was a big hole inside. Inside the cave, the tribesmen of the other two tribes did squeeze in. Most of them were cubs who couldn't transform into human form, underage and breastfeeding females. Perhaps because the beast tide was coming, there weren't any conflicts in the short period of time, and they got along quite well. Chapter 676. Ai was still a little dissatisfied. When she was digging for her residence, she asked her brother, Imo, to make it bigger. In the end, the black wolf took a look and arranged for a lactating female and her 3 cubs to move in. It was originally quite spacious, but after the mother and children moved in, it wasn't so spacious anymore. Ai smiled at them on the surface, but in her heart, she resented Ning Luo. Those little cubs howled every night, making her unable to sleep at all. Not only that, she went out during the day, and when she came back, she saw those cubs jumping around in her residence and biting her things. Her collection of food was all gnawed by these cubs, which made Ai so angry that she almost fainted. No matter how dissatisfied she was, she couldn't chase them out at this time. That would make the other members of the tribe look down on her. She thought that someone would be arranged to move in with Tangwa, so she took the opportunity to ask Tangwa, My residence is very small. Chief came to see it and said that it can't accommodate one more person. Tangwa said with a smile. When they were digging, she had measured it herself to make sure that it could only accommodate one person. Ai didn't believe it and followed her to see. In the end, it was true that it could only accommodate one person. Ai was satisfied. She couldn't help but complain to Tangwa, Ning Luo's idea is really not good. She tried to encourage Tangwa to go against Ning Luo. Agwagwa, if your residence is big enough, other members will definitely move in. But we didn't move in. Tangwa smiled. Chief agreed to this. If Ai is still not satisfied, you can raise it with the chief. I don't want to go against Chief's wishes, but I think that Ning Luo didn't consider our own members when she made this request. Ai sat beside Tangwa. Agwagwa, why don't you talk to Ning Luo? Her request is a bit too much. Although her residence is in the cave outside, her residence is quite big and can accommodate several people. Tangwa narrowed her eyes. Why should I talk to her? Ai was speechless. She did not expect Tangwa to say that. Agwagwa, don't you think Ning Luo is stealing your limelight? You were the one who came up with the idea of digging a pit as a trap. You were also the one who suggested using rolling stones to attack the beasts. You were also the one who picked up the sharp knife. However, Ning Luo seems to be more popular than you. I think it's necessary for you to prove your status and your contributions are more than Ning Luo's. The whole tribe should be grateful to you. How long has Ning Luo been in the tribe? He's already so popular. Gwagwa, your parents are warriors of the tribe, and you're the daughter of a warrior. How can you lose to Ning Luo? Ai seemed to be defending Tangwa. No matter what Ai said, Tangwa didn't agree. Ai, if there's anything you're dissatisfied with, you can tell Ning Luo directly. Why must I do it? After talking for so long, her saliva was dry, but Tangwa was still unmoved. Ai didn't want to talk anymore. Now, she was also complaining about Tangwa in her heart. Forget it, Agwagwa. How can you be so cowardly? Ai threw down these words and walked away in a fit of anger. Tangwa was chewing on a dried fruit and sitting at the door with a smile on her face. Within a few days, there was a rumor in the Lajuo tribe that Agwagwa hated Ning Luo. She thought that Ning Luo's arrival had stolen her limelight. Tangwa was still chewing on the dried fruit with a smile on her face. It was not a big deal. In the beginning, AIE had been trying to sow discord between them and Agwagwa. Although she didn't manage to do so, she still achieved the same effect. Within a few days, no one cared about this rumor anymore. This morning, all the members were awakened by the vibration. Chapter 677. The Beast Tide is here. The Beast Tide is here. A terrifying rumbling sound echoed in the distance, and all the beastmen's expressions changed. They held sharpened wooden sticks in their hands, and all the strong male beastmen stood outside the cave, solemnly staring at the deep pit not far away. The top of the deep pit was supported by branches that were cut off and covered by withered grass. It looked no different from the other places in the forest. Although the rumbling sound was loud, it was still very far from here. Every time the beast tide happened, the wild beasts that came from nowhere would go crazy. They would charge at the humans, tear them apart, and bite their flesh. Every orc tribe only knew that the beast tide was terrifying, but they never understood why it happened every year. These wild beasts seemed to be able to find them no matter what and caused countless casualties. Although they were well prepared this time, they were still worried and afraid when facing the beast tide. Ning Luo was placed in the cave by Gaines. In order to prevent the orcs from going extinct, they would prioritize protecting the female orcs. Male beastmen were born to protect every female. This was their belief. Tangwa had already climbed up the mountain when no one was paying attention. Not long after, Yin Yao came up and sat beside her naturally. Agwagwa, hey, High Priest, do you have something to say to me at this moment of life and death? Tangwa asked with a smile. She looked at the direction of the rumbling sound in the forest. The place where the beast tide passed by also stirred up a cloud of dust in the forest, as if something had exploded inside. She looked at the cloud of dust rushing in all directions. One of the clouds was rushing towards their mountain. She held her chin and thought. These wild beasts obviously couldn't see where they were, but how could they accurately find their location? It was really strange. Agwagwa, you're distracted. Yin Yao reached out and knocked on her forehead. He didn't put his hand down. Instead, he placed his hand on her head and gently stroked it, as if he was stroking a kitten. High Priestess, do you have something important to tell me? For example, Tangwa's lips curved into a smile. You want to tell me who you want to mate with, right? The corner of Yin Yao's mouth froze. A good atmosphere was ruined by Agwagwa. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry, but this time, he didn't avoid it. He pinched her little face, and a smile appeared on his face. Yes, he said. Tangwa's eyes lit up, and the corners of her mouth curled up. Who is it? Agwagwa. And, High Priestess, what did you call me for? It's you, Gwagwa. Yin Yao's gaze became gentle. His palm had already covered the back of Tangwa's head. He looked into her eyes and said seriously again, I said, this person is you, Agwagwa. Do you understand? Tangwa couldn't ignore this kind of seriousness. As the rumbling sound got closer and closer, a brilliant smile appeared on her beautiful face. I know, that person is me, the High Priest, isn't it? Yes, it's you. Tangwa giggled and hugged Yin Yao's arm. She tilted her head and said, High Priest, you finally admitted it. Agwagwa, are you sick? Yes, I am. Tangwa raised her chin. I really have an illness where I feel uncomfortable without seeing you for a day. I even miss you. Hearing this, Yin Yao laughed. He looked at the approaching cloud of dust in the distance. After the beast tide passes, I'll leave for a while. Chapter 678. Where are you going? Asked Tangwa. In the book, it was written that after every beast tide, Yin Yao would leave the tribe for a period of time, roughly 1 to 2 months to half a year. As for what he was going to do, in the first half of the book, there wasn't much description of Yin Yao. His origin and ending weren't explained at all. Yin Yao paused and kept his smile. I'm going to investigate a secret. What secret? He knocked on Tangwa's forehead. Agwa is really curious. The secret of the beast tide. He didn't choose to hide it. They had already confessed their feelings to each other just now. She wasn't an adult yet, so there was no need to rush. When she was an adult, they would hold the formal ceremony. Tangwa was surprised. The secret of the beast tide? Yes. Yin Yao nodded and looked at the rolling dust that was still approaching, I've been through many beast tides. I should say that I've been through countless beast tides with my father since I was young. Once, my father realized that there was something wrong with the beast tide that appeared once a year. No matter where the tribe members hid, those beasts would rush towards them. What was even stranger was that no matter how badly the tribe was hurt, there would always be some people left behind in the end. The beasts that were obviously ferocious retreated quickly, as if they had received some kind of order. When my father was still alive, he would look for the secret of the beast tide every year, said Yin Yao in a low voice, but many years ago, he went out once and never came back. I only found records about the beast tide in his residence and inherited everything from him. If something happened to my father, then I should inherit everything from him and continue to look for this secret. Tangwa asked, "You followed those beasts?" "Yes." Yin Yao nodded. "I've been following those beasts for 5 years. Every time I followed them to a place, they would mysteriously disappear. But every time, I could keep a distance from them. If I continue to follow them, I'll find the secret of the beast tide attacking the tribes sooner or later." Tangwa was also curious about this world. Previously, she thought it was an ordinary beast world. According to what Yin Yao said, it wasn't that simple. "Tongzi, is there any hidden plot related to this world?" "No, dear host, this is a book of the beast world. The content beyond this book is blank. If you want to ask how old Yin Yao is before it wets the bed, I think I can find it. As for the secret of the beast tide, this book did not mention it at all. In fact, the system was also puzzled. It had never encountered such a situation before. Could it be that the beast tide was a conspiracy? Then what was the purpose of this conspiracy?" Tangwa rested her chin on her hand. "I'm a little interested. I haven't seen anything interesting in a long time. Every year, there would be a beast tide at a specific time." "Interesting. Who was doing this for what reason? What was the other party's goal?" Boom, 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 it was the sound of wild beasts galloping. Tangwa and Yin Yao both felt the tremor of the mountain. The surrounding plants were shaking because of it. Yin Yao subconsciously pulled Tangwa into his arms. The two of them stared down at the same time, only to see dust flying up from the deep forest in the distance. Then, all kinds of wild beasts came running out, looking fierce. Trees crashed into trees, rocks crashed into rocks. They rushed towards their position as if they were crazy. Tangwa saw a fierce glint in the eyes of these wild beasts, a fierce glint that seemed to want to devour their prey. Chapter 679. The members of a few tribes became nervous as they watched the ferocious beasts rushing over. Their bodies were tense. Even though they had dug many traps, they could not guarantee that they would be able to deal with all the beasts. However, they had no way out now. The members of the Lado tribe and the other 2 tribes were ready to fight the beasts at any time. The beasts were running very fast. Looking at the aggressive beasts rushing over, no one dared to relax. Seeing that the beasts were about to rush into the deep pits they had dug, they held their breaths. Even Ning Luo was hiding in the cave, looking at the scene outside through the cracks. Back then, a beast almost tore her apart. Looking at the situation outside, if it were not for sufficient preparation and the male beastmen blocking the way outside, she might have peed her pants on the spot. The most relaxed one was Tangwa. Although the beasts were crazy and could identify the location of the beastmen, their intelligence was not high. If they had a high IQ, they wouldn't be running around like this. Some of the wild beasts hit their own heads and bled because of the obstacles. There were even cases of them hitting themselves to death. It was obvious that they didn't have much intelligence. The wave of beasts in front of them was not all. The other beasts should have rushed to other places where there were beastmen. Those deep pits were enough to deal with the wave of beasts in front of them. By the time the beasts in other places reacted, they could have cleared the beasts in the deep pits. Agwagwa has really become bold. Yin Yao still did not let go of her. Instead, he hugged her even tighter. In fact, every time he hugged her and had intimate contact with her, he had an illusion in his heart that they should be this intimate. Because I believe that the method I came up with will definitely make those stupid beasts fall into the pits. Yin Yao smiled. Yes, Agwagwa is a very intelligent female beastman. He had never seen a female beastman smarter than Agwagwa. Only she could attract his attention and make him temporarily forget to look for the secret of the beast tide. Agwagwa, I will wait for you to become an adult. Tangwa laughed softly. Okay, High Priest. All kinds of screams were heard continuously. The two of them had no choice but to look down. The beasts that were rushing over had indeed fallen into the deep pits. The pit was very deep, and there were sharpened wooden sticks in it. When one fell from a high place, the sharpened wooden sticks would pierce their bodies. The more they struggled, the deeper they would be pierced. In addition to the beasts that kept falling in from behind, there was no way for the beasts below to survive. The surrounding beastmen watched as the originally terrifying beasts fell into the deep pit one by one, followed by miserable cries. They were not afraid. Instead, they were certain that the wild beasts would fall into the pit. So far, no wild beasts had rushed over. They raised their sharp sticks and cheered. That wave of wild beasts fell into the deep pit just like that. Even among the most stupid wild beasts, there were still a few smart ones. The remaining dozen or so did not intend to charge out of the pit. Looking at the miserable state of their companions, some of the beasts even had wooden sticks pierced deep into their bodies. They looked at the mountain in the distance and sniffed with their noses. Under the shocked gazes of the orcs, they ran madly in another direction. They're heading towards the back of the mountain. Hailang's face darkened. Quickly go up the mountain. Push the boulder down before they rush up. Chapter 680. The tribe members quickly ran up the mountain. By the time they reached the top, Tangwa and Inyao had already pushed the rolling stones down and killed the last dozen beasts. Looking at the bodies of the beasts, the beastmen heaved a sigh of relief. They looked at each other and laughed happily. When Hailang came up and saw the situation, his cold face couldn't help but smile. Soon, his expression became serious again. There were still many days before the beast wave. Let's take advantage of the fact that the beasts in other places haven't discovered the situation here. Let's get the beasts out first and kill the ones that aren't dead. We'll move them aside and set up new traps. Just like that, after a few days of cleaning and setting up traps, the surroundings of the mountain returned to the way they were before. Seeing that the beasts didn't come here for the time being, they continued to dig deep pits at the back of the mountain. Hailang even had a bold idea. From now on, they would use this place as a base to develop the tribe. In this place, they could climb up the mountain and see all directions. The space in the cave was enough for the members of the Lado tribe to live in. They could usually build houses outside and store food in the cave. Once the beast wave came, they could use today's method. In this way, the members of the Lado tribe wouldn't have to sacrifice themselves when the beast wave came. Hailang thought this way. The leaders of the other two tribes naturally thought of this as well. They were originally very grateful for the help of the Lado tribe, but now that they saw the benefits of this place, they couldn't help but want to occupy this place. This place was actually not big. They could barely live in it to avoid the beast wave. If they wanted to survive, it couldn't accommodate the people of the three tribes at all. If the members of the three tribes didn't decrease after every beast wave, then their numbers would only increase. A few days later, more wild beasts rushed over. These wild beasts were still rampaging and finally died in the deep pit. After they were cleaned up, on the 15th day, the beast tide came again. This time, none of the members were worried. Many of the members even sat outside lazily and chatted. From their expressions, it could be seen that they were thinking, look, there are idiots coming to die again. This time, they didn't lose a single member in the beast wave. They even obtained many beasts. If they made jerky, they would have enough food for half a winter. Tangwa saw that the members of the three tribes were relaxed. She lowered her head and laughed, attracting Yin Yao's attention. What are you laughing at? Guess. Tangwa looked at Yin Yao with a smile. Guess what I'm smiling about? Yin Yao knocked on her forehead and gave her a final hug. Agwagwa, I'm leaving. He was going to find out the secret of the monster tide. His departure this time was different from before. For the first time, he was reluctant to leave. He was even afraid that he would lose his life halfway and not be able to come back to see his Agwagwa. For the first time, he was afraid of death. High Priestess, protect yourself. Tangwa hugged him back. You must come back alive. I will. For the sake of his Agwagwa, he would come back. The system felt a little sour in its heart, But when it thought of what Yin Yao might face when he returned, the jealousy disappeared. Instead, it sympathized with this guy. In the end, Yin Yao couldn't hold himself back. He kissed Tangua's forehead before letting her go. In front of her, he transformed into a snow-white wolf and jumped down the mountain. Soon, he ran in the direction where the beast disappeared. So it's a snow wolf. Tangua clicked her tongue. It's pretty. I wonder how it feels to touch. The system was a dog. Chapter 681. After the beast tide retreated, the tribes cheered and started to divide the meat. When the meat was distributed, the other two tribes didn't intend to leave. Because of this, the three tribes started to have conflicts. The conflict was triggered by Ning Luo. The other two chiefs took a liking to Ning Luo for some reason. One of the chiefs was from the Eagle tribe and was called Ming Jiao. He was one of Ning Luo's future mates. As for the other one, he was just a small character. Because gains went out, He Lang bumped into another chief who wanted to force Ning Luo to leave gains and be his mate. Of course, Ning Luo wasn't willing. One of the reasons was that the chief was really ugly. Mingju also took a liking to Ning Luo and said that if Ning Luo was willing, she could be his mate. As long as she agreed, he would help her and ensure her safety. He was taking advantage of her. He Lang happened to see this and saved the weak Ning Luo. Naturally, Ning Luo had a good impression of He Lang after he helped her a few times. She blamed herself but couldn't help but think about how well He Lang treated her. She was in a dilemma. Tangua read the gossip all day and planned her days. Occasionally, she would chat with Olga about some interesting things. Her days were pretty good. Next, the conflict between the three tribes started. The cause was Ning Luo. Originally, the ugly chief wanted to join forces with Mingju to deal with the Lado tribe and chase them out. Unexpectedly, Mingju suddenly turned against them and joined forces with He Lang to chase them out. What was even more unbelievable was that Mingjiu was willing to join the Lado tribe and become their deputy chief. Under such circumstances, Ning Luo enjoyed the care of Gaines, He Lang, Mingjiu, and Aimo every day. But other than Gaines, the other three were still in an ambiguous relationship. Ning Luo couldn't accept this yet. There was only one day left before Olga was supposed to die. Tangua hugged the dried fruit and found Olga's cave residence. Olga was making new shoes for her two mates. Although Olga was a very proud female, she was also very clever with her hands. Perhaps it had something to do with her love for beauty. Aguagua, don't you like to sleep in your residence? Why are you here? Olga asked. Tangua sat beside Olga. To make shoes for you and me, Camille. Yeah, their shoes are all worn out. I'm going to make more for them. Tangua smiled. Do you plan to go out soon? Where? Aguagua, did you find something fun? No. Tangua shook her head. She picked up a piece of dried fruit and fed it to Olga. I just wanted to talk to you. It's really strange that Aguagua would take the initiative to chat with me. Olga's expression was strange. The high priest has been gone for a long time. Aguagua, don't tell me you want to talk about the high priest with me? She wasn't worried about Yin Yao. He wouldn't be in any danger. Tangua didn't beat around the bush and directly said, don't go out tomorrow. Whether it's you, Mick, or Miller, you have to stop them from going out. Understand? Olga blinked. She didn't understand. But seeing how serious Tangua was, she felt that she should trust her. This was Aguagua, her friend and the smartest female. Okay, I'll listen to you. When Miku and me Camille come back, I'll tell them to ask for leave from the chief tomorrow. Chapter 682. The next day finally arrived. When Ning Luo heard that the tribesmen were going out, she suggested that they were going to find something useful that only she could recognize. He Lang agreed. Gaines, Imo, and Mingjiu were worried about her, so they followed her. Originally, Mirmik was also supposed to go out hunting, but because Tangua had instructed Olga, Olga asked them to stay with her for the day. These two orcs were obedient to Olga, and their words were more effective than the words of their leader. They hurriedly asked Black Wolf for leave. He Lang thought that with Gaines, Imo, and Mingjiu around, there shouldn't be any problems, so he agreed. Dear Ali, you don't expect us to do nothing but sit in the lodgings with you all day and watch you sew, said Mick. Mirmik couldn't help but say, "At least we can go out and find some food so that we can have a good winter. We still have to plan for next year. Maybe we'll have cubs next year." With that, his face was filled with a happy smile. Ollie knocked him on the head. "What are you thinking about? What cubs?" Gwugwa said that I'm a little princess and it's not time to have cubs yet. Yes, Ollie is right. Then Ollie, you should tell us why we're staying, right? Mirmik asked eagerly. Ollie looked outside. Mirmik tactfully went out to take a look. He walked in and said softly, "Ollie, I've checked. No one's here. Tell us." Gwugwa told us not to go out today. The two brothers looked at each other with surprise in their eyes. Was it Gwugwa? That female who always liked to sit on a rock outside and eat dried fruits with a smile on her face was also Ollie's good friend. The two brothers were actually foxes. Not only were they strong, but they were also very smart. They didn't think that Gwugwa told them not to go out for no reason. There must be a reason. Seeing that Ollie didn't care, they didn't choose to tell her that their Ollie was very innocent. She just needed to live happily and let them deal with the troubles. But after thinking for a long time, they still couldn't figure out why Tangwa stopped them from going out. In the afternoon, the members of the tribe came back one after another. They were all in a mess. The two brothers looked at each other. Something had happened. They hurriedly ran out and asked about the situation. Only then did they know that the members of the tribe had walked to a strange place and somehow got separated. Aimo had returned with Mingjio. There were still quite a few members left, including their chief, Black Wolf, and Ning Luo gone. The entire tribe fell into a state of panic. Mier and Miku were the most shocked. They quietly left the crowd and walked back to the cave. Seeing that no one else was paying attention to them, they began to discuss in low voices. Is Agogwar a prophet? If not, why would she stop us from going out today? The two brothers were confused. No matter how smart they were, they couldn't figure it out. Mick, Mill. When the two brothers heard Tangwa's voice, they stiffly turned around. Feeling that she was alone, they heaved a sigh of relief. They were a little hesitant, but if they didn't solve the puzzle, they would feel uncomfortable. Agogwa, Mick said, could you have predicted what happened today? Tangwa waved at the two brothers. When they came closer, she said with a profound expression, I only dreamt of a voice last night. It told me to tell my best friend Ollie and her family not to go out. I don't know anything else. The system's host was a fraud again. Other than this, there's another important thing that I wanted to tell you. Chapter 683. The members of the tribe were all panicking. Hei Lang was the strongest warrior in the tribe, and the high priest was out. If something happened to the tribe, they really didn't know what to do. As the members of the tribe worried, the sun went down and the sky gradually darkened. Hei Lang brought a few injured members back to the tribe. He looked fine, just a little battered. Some of the others were injured, but fortunately, it wasn't serious. When Hei Lang heard that Gain and Ning Luo hadn't returned yet, his face darkened. Seeing that the sky was already dark, he actually planned to go out and look for them. This time, Aimo, Mingjio, and the other members of the tribe also felt that they had to find Ning Luo. They all thought that Ning Luo was very important and agreed. Thus, Hei Lang brought a group of people out to look for them. It's already so late. Isn't the chief afraid that something will happen? Olga couldn't help but ask. The beast tide just passed not long ago. It's a dangerous time now. What if we go out at night? Luckily, Mick and Mill were not chosen by Hei Lang because they looked thin and weak. Olga remembered that when she brought Mill and Mick back, she told Agwagwa that they were very strong. However, Agwagwa told her that Mill and Mick shouldn't appear so strong. Olga didn't understand that they weren't chosen by Hei Lang to look for Ning Luo at night. She was really glad that she warned Mill and Mick. Mick said, the chief looks very worried about Ning Luo. It's not just the chief. Aimo and the deputy chief are also very worried about her. Mill continued. They remembered that Agwagwa stopped them in the afternoon and told them some things that they didn't understand. Seeing Olga's innocent look, they thought that as Olga's best friend, Agwagwa should trust her. If it wasn't for Agwagwa's reminder today, they might have encountered some unavoidable danger. In short, they remembered what Agwagwa told them and decided to do as they were told. That's really strange. What's so good about Ning Luo that everyone has to worry about her? Olga pursed her lips. They even have to risk their lives. She's still as annoying as before. Facing such a straightforward Olga, Mill and Mick decided to bury their secret with a guagua in their hearts so that it wouldn't cause Olga trouble. That night, the tribe was noisy and noisy. Tangua was woken up by the noise many times. She walked out of the cave and saw a bonfire outside. The tribe members sat around the bonfire. Let's hope Ning Luo and Gon are fine. Yes, Ning Luo is the smartest female I've ever seen. It's a pity that I'm not a powerful warrior. Otherwise, I would want to be Ning Luo's mate. Basically, all the male beastmen had the same idea. Black Wolf didn't bring many people out, only about 13 of them, but he had already taken away the strongest warriors of the tribe. Although the female orc also said that she hoped that Ning Luo would return safely, she didn't seem to be that sincere. Aguagua, are you also worried about Ning Luo? When Ai saw Tangua coming out, she hurriedly sat beside her and muttered softly, Aguagua is clearly the smartest female in the tribe. Why did everyone misunderstand? Tangua glanced at Ai, then lowered her eyes, and a cold smile appeared on her face. She was one of the participants in Aguagua's tragedy, and she really played a key role. However, Ai's fate was also very tragic. Chapter 684. Aguagua, don't you think it's a good thing if Ning Luo really doesn't come back? Ai continued to whisper. That way, no one will steal your limelight. You will be the smartest female in the tribe. Ai, how can you say that? Ai didn't expect Tangua to suddenly stand up and look at her angrily. Ai, we don't know what danger Ning Luo will encounter. She brought so many changes to our tribe. How can you say that it's better if she never comes back? Ai, even if you like Gain and want to be Gain's spouse, you shouldn't curse Ning Luo so viciously. Tangua's angry look was very realistic. All the members looked at her and didn't doubt her words at all. They all looked at Ai angrily. Was Ai really cursing Ning Luo to never come back? I'm a guagua you. Ai was a little flustered. She wanted to say something to salvage the situation, but Tangua didn't give her a chance. Did you just say that Ning Luo won't come back? Ai felt all the members looking at her. She was getting more and more flustered. It was obvious that she had said those words. She really didn't expect Aguagua to have such a big reaction when she said that Ning Luo wouldn't come back. Why was this Aguagua so stupid? She actually spoke so loudly, as if she was afraid that others couldn't hear her. Ning Luo taught you how to make shoes and taught the members of the tribe to recognize all kinds of spices and edible wild vegetables. Ai, how can you be so ungrateful and curse her at this time? Tangua looked at the members present and said loudly, I believe that the members of the Lado tribe are all grateful. After receiving the kindness, we definitely won't forget it and won't have such vile thoughts. The members nodded and quickly discussed. They were the most grateful and would always remember Ning Luo's kindness to them. Therefore, they would never have such vile thoughts. I heard that once you do something ungrateful, the gods will punish you severely. Tangua's face was holy, which made the members present respect her. They couldn't help but agree. Ai, I believe that you are just being frank and don't have any bad thoughts. In the future, don't say such vicious words. Ning Luo is kind to you. In order to prevent the gods from punishing you, I hope you can turn over a new leaf and not have such selfish thoughts. Even if you like Gains, you can't hate Ning Luo because of this. Yes, Ai, I hope you can be a kind female and stop cursing Ning Luo with vicious words. Otherwise, the gods will punish you. That's right. Ning Luo has brought us countless benefits and changed our way of life. We can drink delicious meat soup every day. Ai, you're wrong about this. Ai stood in the center, receiving the gazes and accusations of the entire tribe. His face was burning red. She bit her lip and looked at them. She couldn't even explain it. The problem was, she really said those words. Why was this Aguagua so stupid? Seriously, if she had known, she wouldn't have said these things to her. She couldn't even compare to an outsider like Ning Luo. She was too stupid. Tangua didn't care about what Ai was complaining about. She was in a good mood when she saw the condemnation on Ai's face. This time, AIE didn't dare to disturb her in front of her. As long as AIE dared to come, she would repeat AIE's words loudly, just like today. How wonderful. Chapter 685. The next morning, Hei Lang brought the exhausted members back to the tribe. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief when they saw that they weren't injured. Ning Luo and Gain hadn't returned yet, and they were feeling more and more hopeless. Especially the three males who had designs on Ning Luo. They were all very quiet. "I'll eat something and fly up to find Luo Luo," Mingju said. He was from the Eagle tribe and could fly very high. He had flown very far yesterday, but because it was night time, there might be some places that he didn't find. Hei Lang nodded. "Okay, inform us as soon as you have any news." AIMO was a little worried. "I hope Gain can protect Luo Luo." The three of them looked at each other and made a decision. They had to protect Ning Luo together so that this wouldn't happen again. Back then, Hei Lang had chosen to plot slowly because of his friendship with Gaines. Now, he didn't know if Ning Luo could return safely. If she came back alive, he wouldn't choose to stay put. He would ask Gaines to have Ning Luo together. He would only understand her importance when he was about to lose her. AIMO and Mingjio thought the same. In the afternoon, the worried Ning Luo and Gaines returned. At the same time, Gaines was carrying a heavily injured male beastman on his back. Ning Luo looked at the heavily injured beastman and tears streamed down his face. He even held the beastman's hand as he jogged with Gaines into the tribe. "Is the high priest back?" Ning Luo saw Tangua in the crowd and rushed forward to grab her. "Aguagua, is the high priest back? Hurry up and ask the high priest to come out and save Vigo. Vigo's injuries are very serious. He looks like he's about to cry. I don't want Vigo to die. I want Vigo to live." Tangua was too embarrassed to continue chewing on the dried fruit in her mouth. She held her breath and swallowed the remaining piece of dried fruit. Then, she said, "The high priest didn't come back." She glanced at Vigo, who was lying on the wooden plank, and looked pitiful. "He looks like he's about to die." This stinky snake was the most annoying. According to the storyline, it was because this stinky snake was too sensitive that it ruined Yin Yao's plan. He was also the one who severely injured Yin Yao. Tangua secretly thought that it would be better if he died. But obviously, the male lead also had a halo. Even if he was one of the male leads, it was impossible for him to die so easily. "No, Vigo won't die. How can he die?" Ning Luo cried loudly on Vigo's body. Tangua didn't want to remind him because it would aggravate his injury. Ning Luo said sadly to Vigo, "As long as you wake up, I'll accept you and forget everything in the past." "Vigo, what do you say?" This time, Gain didn't stop him. If it wasn't for Vigo's sudden appearance, he and Ning Luo would have been dead. Vigo had killed the beast, but the beast had also taken away most of Vigo's life. When the members of the tribe heard this, they didn't like the snake tribe that much. However, Vigo had saved Ning Luo, so he was a warrior. "Why don't we find some herbs for Vigo to use first?" AIE looked at Vigo's handsome face. Even if he was seriously injured, it still couldn't hide his powerful halo. Although the high priest isn't here, Aguagua often picks herbs with the high priest. She definitely knows a lot of herbs. Although Ning Luo knew some herbs, she only knew some simple ones like clearing heat and detoxifying. She didn't know any herbs for healing. Chapter 686. Tangua was stared at by Ning Luo's red eyes. Ning Luo ran in front of Tangua and knelt down. "Aguagua, please save Vigo. I know you don't like me and blame me for stealing your limelight. I really didn't do it on purpose and didn't want to steal your limelight. As long as you're willing to save Vigo, I'll take him away from the tribe when he recovers." As soon as she finished speaking, the way all the members looked at Tangua changed. It was as if she didn't choose to save Vigo because she hated Ning Luo. AIE seemed to have found an opportunity. "Aguagua, didn't you say that Ning Luo is our tribe's benefactor? Now she wants you to help save Vigo. You won't refuse, right?" "I didn't say I wouldn't help." Tangua glanced at Ning Luo strangely. "Who did you hear that from? I hate you." Ning Luo wiped her tears. "Aren't there rumors among the members of the tribe? Otherwise, why would Aguagua ignore her? She must hate her." Before she came, Agwagwa was the little princess of the tribe. When she came, she attracted a lot of attention. It wasn't strange that Agwagwa hated her. "I don't hate you," Tangwa said without changing her expression. "Do you want me to save him?" "Yes." "Agwagwa, can you help me?" Ning Luo asked anxiously. Tangwa frowned. "I don't know if I can save him. Although I learned from the high priest for a while, I don't seem to be that smart. How could I learn the high priest's skills so quickly? If it was that easy, wouldn't all the members of the tribe learn it?" Ning Luo thought so too. But if Tangwa didn't help, no one could save Vigo. "Agwagwa, no matter what, please try and save Vigo." Tangwa thought for a moment and said, "I'm afraid I'll kill him." "Agwagwa, I believe in you." Ning Luo seemed to be grasping at the last straw. The other members also said that they wouldn't blame her if something went wrong. Tangwa thought it was funny. If she really killed someone, the first person to blame would be Ning Luo. Then these people would say that she didn't learn the skills but insisted on saving someone, causing Vigo's death. "Okay, since you've said that, I'll try. It just so happens that the high priest taught me a method of treating serious injuries." Ning Luo sighed in relief, but she was still worried. When she saw that Tangwa was fiddling with the herbs, she'd let out a sigh of relief. Ants when she'd. Ants. It seemed that Guagua didn't mean to do anything bad. Gua really is a of. There was almost no one who didn't believe this, even AIE. But the Mika brothers, who were standing in the crowd, looked at each other. Was Guagua really not lying? They were a little uncertain. Olga was cheering for Tangwa and kept saying, "Agwagwa, Agwagwa, you're really amazing. You're really the smartest female." The Mika brothers were a little helpless when they heard her naive words. Although Vigo didn't wake up, under Tangwa's meticulous treatment, his wound was gradually healing. Ning Luo was very grateful to her for this. When Vigo woke up on the 10th day and saw Ning Luo, the two of them couldn't hold back and planned to have some fun. Chapter 687. Vigo screamed, attracting the attention of Gaines, AIMO, and the rest. They rushed into the cave and didn't expect to see such an erotic scene. If you ignored Vigo's pained expression, it was indeed very erotic. Ning Luo saw more and more people rushing in and hurriedly wrapped the animal's skin around himself. Seeing Vigo's pale face, he couldn't care less about his shyness and hurriedly hugged him. "Vigo, what's wrong? Where does it hurt?" "I'm sorry, you're still injured. We shouldn't be like this." Vigo gritted his teeth and comforted Ning Luo. "My body hurts." It was very painful, as if something was gnawing on his body. It made him want to scratch his skin and tear apart the painful parts. Seeing Vigo in so much pain, the others hurriedly drove the scene from their minds. "What's wrong with Vigo?" "I don't know. He said his body hurts." Ning Luo suddenly thought of Tangwa. "Gaines, quickly call Agagui over. She treated Vigo's injuries. She must know what's wrong." Tangwa was quickly called over. She looked at Vigo curled up in pain, then looked at Ning Luo's red face that hadn't faded, and even the obvious marks on his body. She couldn't help but laugh in her heart. How could she treat a sinister snake like Vigo so easily? But now her expression was very serious. "What's wrong with Vigo?" "Agagua, quickly take a look." Vigo said his body hurts. He even said his whole body hurts. "Is there a problem with the herbs?" "Host, I really don't understand. She was the one who begged you to save her. Now that she's saved her life, she's blaming you for the slight pain in her body. Judging from her tone, if you can't treat her, she's probably going to pin the blame on you." Tangwa smiled. "You'll understand if you see more. You'll level up faster and have more human emotions. Then you'll understand this mentality." She squatted down and pretended not to understand as she checked Vigo's body. Of course she knew what was wrong with Vigo. He must have turned into his original form when he fought with the wild beasts. Vigo was a snake. Even though his body had scales, it was still weaker than some wild beasts with thick skin. His body had been torn open by the wild beasts, and many sharp stones and branches had splashed in. In normal treatment, those things had to be cleaned up before the medicine could be applied. Tangwa purposely skipped this step. Anyway, she did not understand. She had also saved Vigo. There were all kinds of sharp stones and branches in his body. It would be strange if Vigo didn't die from the pain. She stealthily sped up the healing process of the other party's wound. He was going to suffer a lot. I didn't see anything wrong with Vigo. Tangwa's expression was innocent. I followed the high priest's instructions to stop the bleeding and suture the wound. Now Vigo is fine. He's in pain. Could it be some old illness? I'm sure I don't have any old problems. Vigo glanced coldly at Tangwa. Tangwa spread her hands innocently and said, I really can't find out. You guys forced me to treat you. If I had known, I wouldn't have helped you. Agwagwa, don't be like this. Don't be angry. Vigo is just in too much pain. I apologize to you on his behalf. Ning Luo hurriedly said, Agwagwa, help Vigo check his body again. I didn't find out anything. It's only been a few days. Why don't we wait a few more days and observe? Maybe it'll be fine. Ning Luo thought it was okay. Vigo did not object. Perhaps his injuries were really too serious. He did not notice the evil smile on Tangwa's face. Chapter 688. Agwagwa. Vigo says his body is still in pain. 3 days later, Ning Luo rushed to Tangwa's residence and looked at her with pitiful eyes. Agwagwa, go and take a look at Vigo again. Vigo was only in pain, but his life wasn't in danger. She didn't dare to blame Tangwa for treating Vigo badly. She was just a student who had just taken the college entrance exam, so she didn't know much about healing. Vigo still needed Tangwa's help. She complained that Tangwa's skills weren't up to par, but she didn't dare to show it on her face. The high priest hadn't returned after so many days, so she could only place her hopes on Tangwa. Vigo had been rolling on the ground in pain for the past 3 days, day and night. He couldn't sleep at all. If this went on, she was really afraid that something would happen to Vigo. You're not done yet? Tangwa touched her chin. Okay, then I'll go with you to take a look. When they arrived at Ning Luo's residence, Tangwa heard low cries of pain. She walked in and saw Vigo curled up on the ground with a sallow face. His body was in so much pain that he trembled and occasionally rolled, making him cry out in pain. She was delighted. This stinky snake could really withstand pain. He hadn't died from the pain, as expected of the male lead. Vigo, I'll let Agwagwa take a look at you again. Vigo glanced coldly at Tangwa. He was obviously unwilling, but because his body was in so much pain, he allowed Tangwa to examine him. The scabs have fallen off. Tangwa checked again and touched her chin. Since I saved him, there shouldn't be any problems, right? Aimo, Gain, Mingjio, and Heilang also came. Although they were jealous that Ning Luo cared so much about Vigo, if Vigo hadn't saved Ning Luo, they would have lost Ning Luo forever. Therefore, they all tacitly agreed to Vigo's existence. Even though Vigo was from the snake tribe, snakes were generally unwilling to integrate into the tribe. They had their own caves, and the members of the tribe didn't like to live with snakes. Why don't Vigo transform into his true form, and Gwagwa can directly examine his true form? Heilang suddenly said. He remembered that every time the high priest treated the tribe members, he would let them transform into their original form to check on them. If there were no problems, he would transform into his human form to treat them. Now that he thought about it, he felt that there was indeed one step missing. Vigo pursed his lips as if he was unwilling. In front of strangers, he was unwilling to transform into his original form. But looking at Ning Luo's worried expression, he nodded and got up with Ning Luo's help. They walked outside. His body was relatively large, and this small residence couldn't accommodate him. When he was outside, he transformed into his original form. A giant snake with scales appeared in front of him. The scales were sparse. Once the scales covered his entire body, he would most likely turn into a flood dragon. However, there were no legends of flood dragons in this world of orcs. No matter how powerful the snake race was, they had never successfully evolved into a flood dragon. After transforming into his original form, Vigo felt even more pain. This time, without waiting for Tangwa to check, the others could see that something was wrong with Vigo's body. There were some bulges, as if there was something inside. There's something strange inside Vigo's body, Gain said. Tears fell from Ning Luo's eyes. Gwagwa, quickly take a look. What's inside? Tangwa then said to Hei Lang, leader, if we want to determine what's inside Vigo's body, we might have to cut it open. System. Poison. Chapter 689. Vigo's entire body stiffened. He looked coldly at Tangwa. Tangwa pretended to be afraid and took a few steps back. If you don't want to, then forget it. You didn't transform into your original form. How would I know that there would be something strange inside? Why don't you cut it open yourselves? I won't do it. He doesn't look like he's in any danger. Ning Luo obviously couldn't bear to do it, but seeing Vigo's pained expression, he said, leader, you try. Cut open a small area first and see what's inside. Tangwa looked very serious on the surface, but she was laughing in her heart. Hei Lang nodded. He took the big knife and cut open a bulge. Vigo looked like he was in pain, but he was now a snake head. His expression couldn't be seen, but his body was trembling. The flesh was cut open, and Hei Lang carefully took out the bulging thing. When everyone saw this thing, they were all stunned. Stonehead? Gain stammered. Hei Lang picked out another piece of wood. Everyone's expression changed. We can basically confirm that these things were accidentally mixed in when Vigo was fighting with the beasts. His body was torn apart by the beasts, Hei Lang said. Now, if we want to solve Vigo's pain, we can only cut open his flesh and take out the stones, wood, and branches. Ning Luo looked at Tangwa. Agwagwa, didn't you disinfect and clean Vigo's wounds when you treated him? His complaints couldn't be concealed anymore. Tangwa was confused. What's disinfecting? I cleaned the wounds. Didn't I wash them with hot water? Ning Luo looked at the confused Tangwa and was speechless. How could she forget that this was the backward world of the beastmen? These beastmen had thick skin and were uncultured. How could they know the importance of disinfecting and cleaning wounds? Since you found the reason, I won't care anymore. Don't look for me next time. I really don't know how to. Tangwa said angrily. It was you who wanted me to save him. Now that there is a problem, you want to blame me? Agwagwa, this time you really weren't careful. Every time the high priest treated the wound, he would let the tribe members transform into their original forms to check the wound. Hei Lang said, as if he was not satisfied with her words about Ning Luo. Tangwa glanced at him. I've already said that you don't have to look for me if something like this happens again. I've already rejected you. With that, she left. In any case, he had achieved his revenge. Now, all he had to do was wait for someone to betray him. System. Oh, this host. Although Tangwa had returned to her residence, she got the system to do a live broadcast for her. She watched as Hei Lang cut open Vigo's healed wound with a knife and took out the rocks, wood, and branches. Stones were easier to remove as they were easy to peel off. The branches and wood weren't that easy. Every time he took them, Vigo would cry out in pain. Imagining a giant snake rolling around outside, he found it especially funny. Listening to Vigo's screams, she chewed on the dried fruit in a wonderful mood. After taking out the things in his body, Vigo was already injured all over. He was in so much pain that he was half unconscious. Ning Luo hugged the giant snake head and kissed it. Seeing this scene, Tangwa really couldn't hold back and spat out. Finally, Hei Lang took some herbs to stop the bleeding and applied them on Vigo. A few days later, Vigo's wound was still bleeding. This was because the tearing of the branches and wood was too serious. Compared to the previous pain, it was even more painful now. Chapter 690. 10 days had passed and Vigo's wound had only scabbed over. Ning Luo remembered the herbs that Tangwa had applied on Vigo. They would scab and fall off in a few days. He hesitated for a moment, but still went to find Tangwa. I won't. Agwagwa, please help Vigo. He's in great pain now. Tangwa shook her head. Ning Luo, it's not that I don't want to help you. I'm just afraid that I'll kill him. After all, his pain was caused by my carelessness. Agwagwa, as a member of the tribe, are you going to watch Vigo suffer? Hei Lang couldn't bear to see Tangwa cry. He spoke coldly to her. Tangwa spread her hands. Is Vigo a member of the tribe? Didn't I save him before? Was I the one who made him suffer? She looked at Hei Lang with a smile. Chief, You should understand that I'm not the High Priestess. I can't save lives. You forced me to help Vigo. I always refused. It was you who begged me, so I had no choice but to help. Now that his life is no longer in danger, I'm a little scared that my hand will tremble and worsen his injury. You'll hate me to death." Ning Luo remembered that Tangwa didn't even clean the wound before applying medicine. He hesitated and pulled He Lang. "Then forget it. Chief, I'm also afraid that something will happen to Vigo." "Okay." Tangwa watched the two leave together with a sarcastic smile. How boring. Vigo's wound had only scabbed over after half a month. He couldn't fight for the time being. Otherwise, it might tear open. There were rumors in the tribe that it was because of Agwagwa's carelessness that Vigo was in so much pain. In short, they were all talking about Agwagwa. Within 2 days, there were even rumors that Agwagwa was deliberately tormenting Vigo. The reason was that Ning Luo's kindness had attracted the tribe's #1 warrior, He Lang. When Vigo had almost recovered, Ning Luo accepted Gain and Vigo. At the same time, Aimo, Mingjio, and He Lang couldn't help but confess to Ning Luo. At that time, there were many members around them who heard their confessions. Ning Luo looked at these powerful men who all liked her wholeheartedly. Their gazes were so focused on her, and she couldn't help but blush. However, she already had Vigo and Gains. She was very hesitant about this and felt that her way of thinking wasn't quite right. She was very conflicted. The three of them also expressed that they wouldn't force her as long as she didn't reject their pursuit. Only then did Ning Luo reluctantly accept. This undoubtedly made the other members understand that Aimo, Gain, and He Lang were basically Ning Luo's mates. The fact that 5 strong and good-looking males like Ning Luo at the same time made the females in the tribe jealous. Especially the females who liked Imo and Gains. Their gazes towards Ning Luo were no longer as pure. As for the Black Wolf, none of the females felt that she was worthy of him. Instead, they felt that it was only right for him to choose Ning Luo. In their opinion, Ning Luo was better than Agwagwa and even easier to get along with. In short, they both hated and liked Ning Luo. He Lang's confession to Ning Luo also made them feel that Agwagwa was taking revenge on Vigo because Ning Luo had snatched He Lang away. Ning Luo seemed to think so too. Later on, she became much colder when she saw Tangwa. In the following time, Ning Luo also accepted life in the Beastmen world. She recalled the modern daily necessities and gradually brought changes to the tribe. Chapter 691. The tribesmen received Ning Luo's advice and made many practical and simple gadgets to trade with other tribes. When the other party asked, they would praise Ning Luo from head to toe. In just 2 months, Ning Luo's name was known by many people. The Mata Kingdom, which was a little far from the Lado tribe, also knew of Ning Luo's existence. King Larry immediately decided to capture Ning Luo. Of course, if the beastmen there were willing to hand Ning Luo over, that would be even better. If they weren't willing, they would start a war and take over the Lado tribe. They would kill their males and steal their females and food. King Larry of the Mata Kingdom acted quickly. He sent 200 of the strongest warriors of the Mata Kingdom to the Lado tribe. They rode on tamed beasts and were very fast. If any tribe dared to obstruct them, they would be trampled. The members of Mata were all very cruel. Otherwise, they wouldn't have built their own country. Under the rule of Mata, there were many beastmen tribes. They had to pay for food every year in order to take refuge in Mata when the beast tide came. But because they had to pay for food, they didn't have enough to eat all year round. Many unwilling tribes, such as the Lado tribe, didn't want to rely on a country like Mata that exploited their food. They moved their tribe deep into the forest so that Mata couldn't control them. But with that, there was the danger of beast tides every year. Mata's city was built with stone. Mata also had powerful wise men. Even if the beast tide came to attack them, they would be defeated. The warriors of Mata were too fast. The members of the Lado tribe weren't well informed and were surrounded by the warriors of Mata. Looking at the fierce warriors and the beasts that the warriors of Mata were leading, the members of the Lado tribe were all shocked. Even if they had the powerful Black Wolf leader, strong warriors like Gains, Imo, Mingjio, and Vigo, they couldn't compare to the hundreds of warriors of Mata. If a conflict broke out, the 100 or so people of the Lado tribe wouldn't be able to resist. Not to mention, Mata didn't only have 200 warriors. We're only here for one thing, Warrior Mata said. Hand over a little female called Ning Luo. Don't try to fool us. We know that little female is white and tender, different from other females. I'll give you 3 days to consider. Otherwise, we'll occupy your Lado tribe and kill all the male orcs here. The females and food here will belong to the Mata kingdom. He Lang's expression changed, but he didn't dare to face the conflict head-on. He had finally found a place, so was he going to give it up? He didn't even consider handing over Ning Luo. He planned to leave with his tribesmen tonight. Seeing the warriors of Mata turn and leave, He Lang hurriedly gathered all the members and told them that they would be retreating tonight. All the members returned to the cave and packed their things. When night fell, the members of the Lado tribe quietly walked from the back of the mountain into the depths of the forest. They had underestimated Ma Tagua's obsession with Ning Luo. It didn't take long for them to feel that something was wrong. The 2 members walking in front screamed. He Lang raised his torch and saw clearly that the 2 members were being torn apart by wild beasts. The warrior of Mata said, I've said it before. Don't fool us. Go back or die. Decide for yourselves. I've changed my mind now. I'll give you 2 days to consider. Chapter 692. We can't hand Luo over, Gain said. Vigo also said, if anyone wants to hand Luo over, I'll swallow them. Aimo, Mingjiu, and He Lang all nodded. They didn't intend to hand Ning Luo over. Ning Luo also secretly heaved a sigh of relief. How did she know that there was a Beastman kingdom here? She even attracted their attention. If she had known earlier, she wouldn't have done so many things to attract their attention. We're surrounded by Mata warriors now. We can't leave at all. Chief, we don't want to hand Ning Luo over either. But what should we do next? Mata is so cruel. If we don't do as they say, they'll definitely flatten our Lado tribe. Ai was also very anxious. She didn't want to go to the cruel Mata at all. She heard that many tribes had been exploited by Mata. Suddenly, she saw Tangua sitting on the side with nothing to do. Ning Luo was also not far from Tangua. Looking at the 2 of them, she was surprised to find that Guagua was fairer than Ning Luo. Her body also looked slimmer than Ning Luo. She rolled her eyes and whispered to the female beastman beside her, I think Guagua looks a little like Ning Luo. If Guagua goes to Mata, they won't suspect that she's Ning Luo. Guagua looks slender, but she's not as weak as Ning Luo. She should be doing well in Mata. The female beastmen began to discuss. At first, they were just whispering, but now, everyone was discussing. Actually, what they wanted to express was that Ning Luo could bring countless changes to their tribe, but Guagua was dispensable. In other words, she didn't contribute much to the tribe. Although Mata was cruel, they were still friendly to females. Guagua could replace Ning Luo and go to Mata. It was just a change of location. Her life wouldn't be in danger. Vigo heard this and smiled. I think this is a good idea. Guagua can replace Ning Luo and go to Mata. What do you think, Chief? He Lang was very hesitant. Guagua, Ning Luo is so weak. You can replace her this time. Before He Lang could speak, Gain spoke, followed by Aimo. Mingju didn't speak, but seeing that he didn't object, it was obvious that he agreed. The members of the tribe also looked at Tangua with sparkling eyes, as if they thought this was a very good idea. What are you thinking? How can you let Guagua go to Mata? Do you know how cruel the members of Mata are? Even if they treat females well, what if they know that Guagua is fake? When Olga heard the words of all the members, she stood up immediately. She couldn't believe that the members of the Lado tribe had actually suggested letting Guagua replace Ning Luo. Have you forgotten that Guagua's parents sacrificed themselves for our Lado tribe? Who was the one who came up with the idea to let us avoid the attacks of the beasts so that none of our members died? Wasn't it Guagua who discovered the place where we live now? Guagua picked up the broadswords we are using. Olga was very angry. How could these people forget Guagua's kindness? Even if they wanted to replace Ning Luo, it couldn't be Guagua. But we can't hand Ning Luo over. That's right. Ning Luo can't not be handed over. Ning Luo is the most intelligent female. It's best for her to stay in the Lado tribe. Chapter 693. Olga's heart turned cold when she saw the members saying that they couldn't hand Ning Luo over. So they could hand Agwa over? Without Ning Luo, we don't have any shoes to wear. We don't have meat soup to drink either. Ning Luo can teach us how to weave beautiful flowers and sew beautiful clothes. Ning Luo knows how to make food that we think is inedible. She's a wise person. We can't hand her over. Olga's eyes turned red. But Agwagwa had saved their lives before. She didn't understand. Agwagwa was the one who had saved their lives. Why would she abandon her now? I don't agree, Olga shouted. If you dare to hand Agwagwa over, I'll fight it out with you. Miku, Mi-air, do you dare to fight with me and protect Agwagwa? Miku and Mi-air hurriedly nodded. Olga was finally satisfied. She took a deep breath and turned around to pull Tangwa. She patted her chest. Agwagwa, I'll protect you. As long as I'm alive, I won't let you be handed over. After speaking, she pulled Tangwa into the cave in front of all the members. Ning Luo was also very scared. She had heard that Matagwa was very violent. Her body trembled as she hid in Gain's arms. Vigo hugged her gently. Luo, don't worry. I won't let you go to Matagwa. Sleep well tonight, and you'll be fine when you wake up tomorrow. Really? Really? A cold smile appeared on Vigo's face. No one could snatch Luo away from him. She could only be replaced by someone else. After coaxing Ning Luo to sleep, the men gathered together. Hand Agwagwa over, Vigo said. For Lualua's sake, I hope that you won't stop us. Unless you're willing to hand Luo over. Impossible, they refuted at the same time. Vigo gave a victorious smile. Hey Lang, are you going to stop us? Hey Lang clenched his fists but didn't say anything. Between Agwagwa and Ning Luo, he chose Ning Luo. He could only let Agwagwa down. Matagwa probably wouldn't do anything to Agwagwa, but he couldn't lose Ning Luo. Mill and Mick must be guarding Agwagwa's residence. We can defeat them together. Vigo narrowed his eyes. For safety's sake, we'll take action tomorrow night. Tomorrow morning, we'll let them lower their guard. Olga won't think so much. We just need to trick her. They agreed. The next day, Heilang announced that they would think of other ways. When the members saw Black Wolf's confident look, they all relaxed. In fact, they felt uneasy about handing over Agwagwa, but between their lives and Agwagwa, they chose their own lives. Ning Luo was more important than Agwagwa, so they could only give up Agwagwa. Late at night, Vigo smiled at them. This time, let me be the bad guy. Otherwise, Black Wolf, you will lose your demeanor as a leader. He had also accepted the existence of Black Wolf and the others. Ning Luo needed them to protect him. As expected, there was no one guarding outside Tangwa's residence. Vigo easily came in and subdued Tangwa. He handed her over to the warriors of Matagwa and told them that this was Ning Luo. Tangwa now looked much fairer than Ning Luo. The warriors of Matagwa had never seen such a fair female before. They didn't suspect anything and took her away. Will Agwagwa be okay? Mick looked at the sleeping Olga and asked anxiously. Agwagwa is the real wise one. Don't worry. If she can predict so many things, nothing will happen. When Olga finds out tomorrow, we'll fall out with the Lado tribe and leave according to what Agwagwa said. We'll meet again in the future. That's the only way. Chapter 694. When Tangwa woke up, she was in the beast carriage. The surrounding Mata beastmen all stared at her when they saw that she had woken up. She smiled and said, "How long will it take to reach Mata?" She couldn't wait to go to Mata and conquer it. King Larry of Mata was a very cruel beast man. She definitely wouldn't let him go. She planned to kill Larry as soon as she got there. She wouldn't be so restricted when she went to Mata. She would be able to show off her skills. But this time, she didn't plan to be the king of Mata. She heard that there was a very popular job in the beastmen world. It was called a wise man. As the name implied, only beastmen with extraordinary wisdom would be called wise men. She should be able to be a wise man. Her beast carriage was pulled by 2 wild horses. There was a burly beast man riding on the wild horses. He was Mata's #1 warrior and Larry's lackey. He was the one who found out that Agwagwa wasn't Ning Luo and threw her to those cruel beastmen. So, this person couldn't live. She needed to choose someone who didn't have a grudge against her who was obedient and easy to control. It would be best if he had a grudge against Larry. She recalled the plot and quickly found a candidate. Siri, Larry's younger brother. He had always been suppressed by Larry and was even chased out of the palace. He was currently living a poor life. Even so, Siri didn't give up. He was secretly developing his power. The plot mentioned that there had been chaos in Mata. It was because of this chaos that Ning Luo and her mates were able to defeat the powerful Mata. In the end, they took over Mata's territory and established the Beastmen Kingdom. I still need 3 more people. A Beastman replied to Tanghua. Be good and don't run. You'll get the best treatment in Mata. As long as you bring what you know to Mata, the king will grant you the title of a noble. Tanghua chuckled and replied, Sure, I want to be a noble too. I'm really sick of living in a cave every day in the Lado tribe. I heard that the houses in Mata are made of stone. That's right. Our city is made of stone. All the people of Mata live in houses made of stone. They are sturdy and durable. Even if the beast tide comes, it will be blocked by the sturdy stone walls. There is no danger at all. We still have the wise ones. No matter how ferocious the beast tide is, the wise ones will think of a way to deal with it. Speaking of this, the Mata Beastmen were especially proud. They proudly told Tanghua about the benefits. It didn't take long for Tanghua to get along well with this group of people. She even cooked meat soup for them to drink. After they finished drinking, they looked at Tanghua with burning eyes. Even the number 1 warrior looked at Tanghua differently. Perhaps because she had no intention of running away, she got along well with them. Along the way, other than the number 1 warrior who was cold to her, the other beastmen were very warm and took care of her. They completely treated her as one of their own. Basically, they gave her whatever she wanted. The number 1 warrior frowned when he saw this. In the end, perhaps because he thought that she wasn't dangerous, he didn't stop her. Soon, Tanghua arrived in Mata. Seeing the houses made of stone, she felt that it was a little strange. The higher the status of the beastmen, the better and sturdier the stones used. Especially the palace, it was actually built quite beautifully. There were also various carvings of beastmen in their original forms. It looked ancient and beautiful. Chapter 695. King Larry personally met Tanghua and told Tanghua that he would grant her noble status as long as she was willing to bring the things she knew to Mata. Tanghua agreed and was arranged to live in the noble's house that day. A few warriors and female orcs were sent to take care of her, but they were actually monitoring her. She didn't care about these things and casually took out a few things for Larry. After Larry sent people to learn them, he was very satisfied. Tanghua had been in Mata for a month. Larry didn't think that she would have any thoughts of betrayal. Moreover, the orcs who were monitoring her said that she was very happy every day and was very happy to live in Mata. Now, even the number 1 warrior didn't suspect Tanghua anymore. Not to mention that she even took out some good things from time to time. After Tanghua confirmed that Larry didn't deliberately monitor her, she wanted to get close to Siri. Getting close to Siri was very smooth and Siri was very surprised by her arrival. From the beginning, his subordinates had received news that Larry had snatched a very powerful female orc from the Rado tribe. The items in Mata had also become more abundant because of this female orc. It could be said that her status was also gradually rising. Even if she couldn't be compared to the king, the wise ones, and the number 1 warrior, she was still nobler than the other orcs. At that time, Siri's face was very ugly, but he didn't dare to do anything. Now that Tanghua personally came to him, he was very confused. You're Ning Luo, right? Why are you looking for me? Tanghua sat on the stone bench and shook her head. My name is not Ning Luo. Everyone calls you Ning Luo. Are you from the Rado tribe, or were you snatched by Larry? If you're not Ning Luo, how can you make those rare items? Larry and his lackey, the number 1 warrior, are very cunning. You can't fool them. Anyway, he didn't believe that Tanghua was a fake. My name is Aguagua. I'm here to cooperate with you, Siri. Tanghua smiled. Do you want Mata? Shili was shocked. He looked at Tanghua warily, wondering if she was serious or just trying to trick him. Perhaps Larry had sent her to kill him to confuse him. No matter what, he would not believe it so easily. In fact, the world of the Beastmen was not that simple. From the Beastmen in Mata, It could be seen that there was no lack of intelligent beastmen, and Sheely was one of them. As for the beastmen of the Leto tribe, just being alive made them busy. They didn't have the energy or the mind to think, so naturally, they weren't that smart. Siri did not believe him. He was very careful and quickly expressed that he did not want Matagua at all. Tangwa did not force him. She would occasionally come over to talk to him. Later on, Sheely confirmed that every time she came over, Larry did not notice. After a while, he finally understood that the female was telling the truth. "Why are you doing this?" "I don't like Larry, so I want to kill Larry and the first warrior." "Do you dare, Siri?" For the first time, he was impressed by this female's boldness. "Siri, as long as you're obedient and obediently rule Mata, I promise that you won't regret it. On the contrary, you'll gain a lot of benefits. I don't want Matagua, and I'll even help you unify the beastmen." It had to be said that Sheely was very excited and moved. However, he did not believe that Tangwa was so capable. Until Tangwa took out a steel knife from thin air and chopped the stone table into pieces. She said brightly, "I have as many of these things as you want. However, I won't give you an attitude, but I can teach you how to make them." "I'll do it." Chapter 696. After that, Sheely got busy, and Tangwa had some free time. She gave Sheely a batch of steel knives. She found them in the market of the pirated system. They weren't anything good, but in the world of the beastmen, they were very cruel weapons. Sheely was smart and patient. He waited for a very good opportunity to start a civil war. He killed Larry and the first warrior in front of all the beastmen and ruled Mata country. On the first day of ruling Mata country, he announced that Tangwa's real identity was a Guagua. She would be the wisest person in Mata country from now on. From the moment Tangwa took out the steel sword out of thin air, the smart Sheely didn't intend to betray Guagua. In fact, in his heart, he believed that Guagua wasn't a wise woman, but a fallen god. A god was someone he couldn't afford to offend. No matter what reason this fallen god had for helping him, he would get a lot of benefits. He wasn't a narrow-minded guy like Larry. Furthermore, he clearly discovered that this god was indeed not interested in ruling over the world. She was happy to help Mata country change and bring them all kinds of new things. More importantly, she especially liked to instigate him to expand his territory. Every time he succeeded, she would stare at the map and say, "Continue to expand." It was as if she was only interested in the pleasure of expanding and had no intention of ruling at all. Sheely didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Aguagua saw that the situation was about right, so she taught Sheely the most primitive method of smelting iron. Sheely was very excited. "Aguagua, what do you want to do in the future? Just say it. Let the warriors of Mata country help you." "Sheely, don't be too excited. Smelt the iron properly. It's very important for your expansion." Sheely's mouth twitched when he heard that. He felt like vomiting when he heard about expanding his territory. "Aguagua, it's going to be winter soon. Let's talk about expanding our territory next year." For the first time, Sheely was a little disgusted by expanding his territory. He always felt that Aguagua wanted to rule the entire Beastmen country. He would die of exhaustion if that happened. Tangwa thought for a while and agreed. "Inyao should be here soon." "Oh right, in a while. There might be a beautiful snow wolf looking for me. His name is Inyao. He is my mate. You are not allowed to hurt him. When you see him, bring him in to see me." "All right, no problem. I'll definitely instruct them to pay attention." Tangwa lived a comfortable life in Mata and was respected by all the beastmen in Mata. The Leto tribe did not fare so well. The next morning after Tangwa was handed over to the Leto tribe. When Olga found out the truth, she suspected that Hei Lang had secretly handed over Tangwa and caused a huge ruckus with Hei Lang. The other beastmen of the Leto tribe did not say a word and did not say anything bad about Hei Lang. She could even see the relief on the faces of the members, as if they had just escaped with their lives. Her heart was completely cold. Ning Luo hurriedly said. She believed that Hei Lang didn't do it. She even asked Olga to calm down. The other members also agreed with Ning Luo's words, which almost made Olga mad. Vigo could not stand Ning Luo's grievance and admitted in front of everyone that he was the one who had handed over Tangwa. Olga wanted He Lang to chase Vigo out of the tribe, but Ning Luo was unwilling. Vigo was still injured. In the end, Olga left the tribe with food and the two brothers, Mi and Miku. He Lang tried to stop her, but failed. Chapter 697. The Mikamil brothers followed what Tangwa had told them and slowly moved towards Mata. After Olga asked them where they were going, she hugged each of them and kissed them. Mikamil, you are indeed my spouse. You know me so well. Yes, we are going to find Guagua now. I wonder how she is doing in the Orc Kingdom. Mikamil was a little helpless. Their Olga was really pure and kind. Guagua had already expected that Olga would take them away from the tribe. She had told them that even if Olga didn't plan to leave the Lado tribe, they had to take her away. At that time, they had asked, "Where are we going?" "Mata. We came to Mata to look for her. According to the time, you should be safe." Mikamil now fully believed in Guagua's wisdom, but he still approached Mata carefully. Outside Mata, they had heard many orcs talking. A few months ago, there had been political chaos in Mata. King Larry had been killed by his brother Siri, and Siri had become the king of Mata. King Siri of Mata had also publicly announced that there was a wise person by his side. This wise person's name was Guagua. At that time, Olga and the Mikamil brothers were also stunned. Was Guagua really the Guagua they knew? Mikamil, could she be the Guagua we are looking for? Olga asked excitedly. Really? She must be, right? She must be my good friend Guagua. Yes, Olga, she must be Guagua. Mikamil didn't lie to Olga. They believed that the powerful wise person should be Guagua. She could predict the truth of so many things. Only she had the ability to assist the weak Siri to take over Mata. She could also help Mata expand its territory and bring about countless changes to Mata. Guagua. The sadness on Olga's face disappeared. She held Mikamil and Mil's hand and rushed towards the city of Mata. She looked very excited. They were stopped by the city guards. Olga shouted, "I am Guagua's friend. My name is Olga. I am here to find Guagua." Mikkel wanted to stop them. After all, these guards might not know about Ali. Unexpectedly, when the guard heard Olga's name and asked for their names, his expression became respectful. "Oh, it's Lady Olga. Please come in. Lady Guagua has been waiting for you for a long time." This time, Olga finally cried tears of joy. It was really Guagua. She hugged Mikamil and kissed him. Finally, they let her in. When she saw Tangwa, she was eating delicious food. Shili had sent many helpers to help her, so she didn't have to hide anything now. Shili looked at her as if he was looking at a deity. She didn't want to make herself suffer. Olga saw a lot of delicious food on Tangwa's table. She smelled the delicious aroma, which she had never seen before. A fox's nose was very sensitive. Even Mikamek almost couldn't control himself. This was too fragrant. However, they did not move. Instead, they went to check on Tangwa first. Olga ran over and hugged Tangwa. She cried and said, "Guagua, are you really okay? Are you still a wise person? They all call you Lady Guagua, but they call me Lady Olga? I'm fine. Come down. I'm eating." Tangwa pushed Olga away in disdain and invited Mikamil to sit down and eat. Chapter 698. Eat the food first. You came at the right time. I've prepared a lot today. After Olga was elated, she swallowed her saliva while looking at the food. Let's eat first. It looks delicious. It's delicious. It's spicy, but it's still delicious. Mikkel and Mill were not as rude as Olga. No matter what they did, they were still elegant. When they ate, they sat quietly at the side. Even if it was delicious, they enjoyed it with their eyes closed. But as Olga said, it was really delicious. Now, Tangwa's position in their hearts had risen again. Guagua was indeed a wise person. No, she was more powerful than a wise person. She was even more powerful than the high priest. The two brothers were shocked as they ate. She was even more powerful than the high priest. Could it be that Guagua was a descended god? When they entered the city of Mata, they found many different things. It was very strange. The orc who brought them in told them that those things were brought by Guagua. All the orcs in Mata talked about Guagua as if they were looking at a god. They said that she was a wise person, but in fact, she was already a god in their hearts. You can live in Mata from now on. If you want to do anything, just tell Shili directly. Shili is very easy to talk to, Tangwa said with a smile. We don't want to be too far away from Olga, Mikkel said. The most important thing in their hearts was Olga. Mil thought for a while. Let's be merchants. We two brothers are smart. Olga has always liked beautiful dresses and necklaces. Merchants can get a lot of these things. In the future, they would give Olga whatever she wanted. Seeing Olga's satisfied smile made them happy. Then I'll talk to Shili and allow you to set up the first caravan in Mata. In the future, you can use Mata's goods to exchange for good things from other tribes and other countries. Tangwa said casually, which shocked Mikkel and Mil. When they saw Shili and found that Shili respected Tangwa as if she was a god, they finally understood. It seemed that a Gwa might really be a powerful god. Next, they saw the weapons made by Matagwa. Although they were very crude and could not compare to the weapons that Tangwa gave to Shili, the weapons that Tangwa gave to Shili were called treasures by Shili. Only the strongest warriors of Matagwa were qualified to use them. On this side, the Lajuo tribe had also moved away from their original place, and their days of running around were not easy. Ningluo was fine. She had 5 men to protect her. It was different for the other members of the tribe, especially for pregnant females who had babies. Because their bodies were too weak and they were tired from running around, they even fell sick. Just when they were at their wits' end, Yin Yao appeared. When Yin Yao appeared, they all shouted excitedly, "The high priest is back. We're saved. We're saved." Yin Yao didn't immediately go to help those sick members. Instead, he searched for Tangwa in the crowd. In the end, he didn't see Tangwa, so he asked the members of the tribe. All the members were silent. After all, Agwagwa had been handed over in place of Ningluo, but they didn't dare to hide such things from Yin Yao, so they told him intermittently. At that time, Yin Yao's face, which wasn't cold, turned green. The way he looked at the members of the tribe was actually filled with coldness. Aie said softly, "High priest, no matter what, let's treat the members of the tribe first." When Yin Yao heard this, he smiled. He smiled with tears in his eyes. Chapter 699. High Priest, many of our members are sick. Please help us treat them, Heilang said. With the current state of the members, they couldn't travel at all. He wasn't sure when Matagwa would see through their deception and recognize that Agwagwa wasn't Ningluo. Once Agwagwa's identity was exposed, King Matagwa would definitely send a large number of warriors to stop them. Not only would he kill their members and steal their food and females, but he would also lose Ningluo forever. Why didn't you stop them? Yin Yao asked coldly. Heilang didn't dare to look at Yin Yao's eyes. He looked at the frightened Ningluo. Luo is very important to the tribe. Everyone thinks she should stay. Matagwa wants Ningluo, not Agwagwa. Why do you want Agwagwa to replace Ningluo? Yin Yao asked. Before they answered, he asked again. Is Ningluo important to the tribe? Is she important to you too? Heilang didn't deny it. Ningluo was indeed very important to him. She was more important than his life. For Ningluo, he went against his own principles and abandoned Agwagwa. When did he forget his promise to Agwagwa that he would wait for her to grow up and only have eyes for Ningluo? He didn't know. He only knew that when he had to choose between the two, he would choose Ningluo. He couldn't lose her. Yin Yao's eyes turned red. So you think Agwagwa isn't important to the tribe? No one dared to say a word. The person who questioned them wasn't Olga, but the high priest, a shapeshifter they couldn't disobey. Only when the high priest was in the tribe could he help treat the illness and injuries of their members. Yin Yao looked around at the members of the Lajuo tribe. You forgot who found the cave, who thought of a way to deal with the beast tide. You also forgot who the sword in the chief's hand belongs to. You forgot that without Agwagwa, the Lajuo tribe wouldn't have been able to live in the cave for so many months. You wouldn't have lost a single member after the terrifying beast tide. And you abandoned her at the most critical moment. You said she wasn't important and couldn't compare to Ningluo, right? Yin Yao's smile was a little sad. I finally understand why Agwagwa doesn't want to be close to you. The only one who can be friends with her is Olga. Because at the most critical moment, only Olga did not abandon Agwagwa. She even chose to leave the Lado tribe for Agwagwa. Agwagwa is indeed the smartest female. Inyao looked into the distance. That direction was where Matagwa was. With a smile on his face, he suddenly transformed into a snow-white wolf and leaped towards Matagwa's direction. He was as fast as lightning. Before any of the members could react, he disappeared into the forest. His voice penetrated the forest and reached their ears. Since you've abandoned Agwagwa, I'll abandon you. I'm going to find my Agwagwa. She must miss me, and I miss her too. Yin Yao's sudden departure caught the members of the Lajuo tribe off guard. They panicked. Now that the high priest had left, who would heal them? They still had many children who were still sick. High priest, why are you leaving? You don't have to leave just for Agwagwa. Yeah, do you really want to sacrifice the entire Lajuo tribe for Agwagwa? Luckily, Yin Yao couldn't hear these words. Chapter 700. What should we do now? Aimo asked. Without the high priest, we don't have anyone who knows how to treat illnesses. Many of the cubs can't take it anymore. If we knew that the high priest valued Agwagwa so much, we wouldn't have let Agwagwa go to Mata country. We didn't let Agwagwa go. We didn't kidnap Agwagwa either. It was Vigo who took the initiative to kidnap Agwagwa and hand her over to the warriors of Mata country. Speaking of which, it has nothing to do with us. The high priest hates us because of Vigo's mistake. Ning Luo wanted to defend Vigo, but she didn't know how to explain. She knew that they were wrong, but she didn't know how to refute them. She stood there anxiously. Vigo chuckled and hugged Ning Luo. All right, Luo, don't bother about them. Just get used to it, he said in disdain. That was why he said that he could be the bad guy. These beastmen were different from the snake tribe. If it wasn't for Ning Luo, he wouldn't want to be with them. Vigo, how can they say that about you? They want to hand Agwagwa over too. Ning Luo wasn't stupid. She could see the crux of the matter, and she felt uncomfortable. Vigo didn't care. He said gently to Ning Luo, I told you to ignore them. Luo, I don't mind. I only want to protect you. Ning Luo, who was originally angry, blushed when she heard this. On the other hand, the Black Wolves were troubled by their members' illnesses. Without the high priest, they couldn't treat their members' illnesses. These members offended Ning Luo. Even if Ning Luo had a solution, she wouldn't be willing to help them. For a time, their pace slowed down. Because of this, quite a few of their children died along the way. Conflicts also increased as a result. However, they still had a long way to go. They planned to go to the deepest part of the forest, a place far away from Mata country. That way, Mata country wouldn't know about them. On the other hand, Yin Yao came to Mata country in a hurry. He ran to the city of Mata country in the form of a snow wolf. Just as he was about to let out a long howl to show that he was coming to snatch the people, he did not expect that the guards guarding the city would walk up to him respectfully when they saw him. May I know if you are Lord Yin Yao? The king had instructed them to treat the snow wolf respectfully once it came to Mata. The king had also said that this snow wolf was the spouse of Sage Agogwa. Seeing it today, it was indeed different from ordinary snow wolves. Before the guards went up to ask, they were almost certain that it was Yin Yao, Lord Guogwa's spouse. Yin Yao felt a little strange. Was there something wrong with this Mata country guard's brain? He actually called him Lord Yin Yao, such an honorable title. Master Yin Yao, Master Agua knows that you are coming and has been waiting for a long time. Are you going to see her now? At first, Yin Yao still had doubts. When he heard the name Agwagwa, he didn't think about anything else. Now, he just wanted to see her. His Agwagwa. I want to see her. His voice was a little hoarse, and his eyes were a little hot. They called his Agwagwa Lord, so Agwagwa was very good, right? Walking into the city of Mata country, Yin Yao was shocked to see a city that was different from anything he had seen before. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.